Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Aaron Blade, and I'm the editor, creator, and producer of what you're watching right now, Blade Talk. If you are new here, welcome, and you found this presentation helpful and informative, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. Do me an even greater favor and subscribe to my channel. Always appreciate all the support that I am given. So I wanted to go over what's going on in the Middle East. All right, I've gotten a lot of emails, comments, and feedback asking if I would comment on what's going on, maybe explain what's going on for those that may not understand. And of course, I'd be more than happy to. I'm not oblivious to what is taking place. So I figured I would do my due diligence in this presentation to hopefully explain to you all what's going on. So if you're interested, hit that intro and let's begin. All right, so again, I wanted to discuss what was going on in the Middle East, okay, for those that may not be aware of what's taking place, okay? And before I get into that, I just want to tell all of my fellow Jews to be careful observing Pesach this week. At my local shul, it was recently vandalized along with the Abad Center. They took a BB gun and shot out all the windows. So we're working with local law enforcement to install cameras and prevent anything like this from taking place again. Of course, anti-Semitism is on the rise. It's nothing new for us, but I just want to send out a message and make sure to tell everybody to make sure to be safe. As we observe one of the most important Jewish holidays on the calendar. All right. So that being said, last weekend Iran attacked Israel with a combination of 300 drones, ballistic missiles, and cruise missiles. Okay. And I wanted to talk about it for a minute. It is important to note that the Israeli defense is nothing short of a miracle. Okay. It was able to shoot down 99% of these attacks, right? And the funny thing is that many missiles were actually aimed toward the Dome of the Rock, which is a very important site in Islam. And if it wasn't for the Israeli defense systems, one of the holiest sites in Islam would have been destroyed. So Israel is not only the defender of Christianity and Judaism, but also Islam in that respect, right? And so again, for those that are wondering, why don't we see miracles like we used to in the Tanakh and whatnot? I urge them to look at Israel, okay? Israel shot down 99% of all these attacks in combination with the United States, the UK, Jordan, actually, and has pretty much revealed their preferences. You have Jordan that has recently backed Hamas and been sympathetic to the Palestinian people and whatnot. But when push comes to shove, they really don't like the Iranians either. So they ended up shooting down the missiles that flew over Jordan as well. All right. France also got involved with shooting down some of these missiles in hopes to prevent a regional war. Okay. Now, if you want to hear something funny, Iranians have been trying to pass this off as a victory, okay? On Iranian TV, they have been showing footage of fires from Chile, pretending that it's actually fires from Israel, okay? So they're propagandizing to their citizens that this was not, in fact, a humiliating defeat, almost embarrassing for the state of Iran, right? Which it essentially was. When you fire a combination of 300 drones and missiles and nearly all of them get shot down, that is a signal of military failure, okay? There was a girl, I can't think of her name off the top of my head and I didn't write it down, that actually was injured from the attack. It was actually an Arab child that got injured as well as some minor damage to an Air Force base, but nothing too serious. And that's not to make light of, obviously, the young Arab girl that could potentially die. I pray that she recovers, though. So what I want to do is talk about how we got to this point, okay? Again, people are still thinking that there's a territory dispute and we need a two-state solution, etc., etc. Let me explain. So Iran was in a catch-22, and a catch-22 of its own making, all right? So Iran, the whole way this conflict started on October 7th, was deeply afraid that Israel was about to sign a new Abraham Accords with the Saudi government. Okay, everyone was openly discussing this, and that would have solidified a Sunni-Israeli pact against the Shia aggression in the Middle East. Okay, Iran would have effectively been boxed in, right? The reality is that an American-backed Sunni-Israeli alliance would be extraordinarily powerful in the region. Okay, it would be a huge threat to terrorist groups in Yemen and Lebanon, such as Hezbollah, Hamas, Iran, etc. Right? Iran was feeling the pressure, so it activated a general by the name of Muhammad, who is the head of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, greenlit the October 7th attacks, okay? This attack ultimately killed 1,200 Israelis and took 250 hostages, okay? 133 Israelis are still missing, and most are essentially presumed dead. The entire goal of this attack was to put the Abraham Accords that Israel was about to sign on hold, okay? So in the Middle East, it's important to note that it's all about strength, okay? The only way the Saudis are going to agree to a deal with Israel is if the Saudis believe that Israel are militarily powerful enough to rebut all attempts to essentially destroy them, right? So Israel took out the general who greenlit the October 7th attack, which left Iran in a conflict, right? See, on one hand, they would have to be seen, as strong, right? They don't want to come off as weak to their own citizens. And here you have your top general that was just killed by the Israeli forces, okay? So on one hand, they don't want to appear weak to their own citizens by not responding to a top general that was just killed, right? And on the other, they've seen an opening with the way that the United States has been a little shaky concerning Israel. Okay, the United States have been putting so much pressure on Israel. They felt maybe there was a gap there that they can essentially exploit. Okay, Iran thought maybe they can flex some muscle in the face of the Saudis and the Israelis. The problem was they weren't sure just how much pressure they could apply without United States involvement or Israel essentially becoming unshackled, right? And therein lies the catch-22. They needed to do something because their top general was killed, right? And they don't want to appear weak, but they couldn't be too strong enough that it would elicit a full-scale military response from Israel greenlit by the United States, okay? Now the plot thickens with the fact that Iran told Turkey, actually, of its plan to attack Israel, which Turkey was okay with as long as the attack was limited. Now keep in mind that Turkey is a loose ally of the United States, being a member of NATO. Now I want you all to keep in mind that a combination of 300 drones and missiles were launched at a sovereign country. Okay? Any country would have the right to respond. Okay? If Mexico, for example, launched a combination of 300 missiles and drones at the United States, even if all of them were shot down, tomorrow morning Mexico City would not be occupied by the Mexican government. Right? So Israel has essentially three options here. One, Israel could in fact deliver a devastating blow to Iran. They could target the oil refineries, devastating Iran's economy. Option two is that Israel could turn north and strike the actual most serious threat that it currently faces, which is Hezbollah, right? Hezbollah is an Iranian-backed terrorist organization that has tens of thousands of members with 200,000 rockets pointed at Israel, 50,000 of which are capable of smart technology and doing some serious damage to its targets, right? And the third option is to let the world realize that the Iranian threat and, let them understand what they're dealing with and use that to essentially finish off Hamas, right? There's only one major city left to go to, which is Rafah, and there is 4 brigades of Hamas fighters in that city, all right? So Israel decided a couple of days ago to do option 1 and 3, right? So they decided to green light a targeted strike, limited in nature, against Iran, mainly to give Iranians a warning, okay? The goal, of course, is deterrence, all right? Again, in the Middle East, it's all about strength, okay? So they believe push where there's a mush, right? So if they can get away with one thing, then they'll try something else. Then they'll try something else. And again, push where there's mush, right? So basically, Israel said, listen, you guys fired a combination of 300 drones and missiles, and we knocked them all down, okay? Now, we can basically hit you at any time that we want, so stand down, okay? It also gives Iran an opportunity to essentially save face, okay? Iran had been mouthing off a lot about, if as Israel retaliated, then Iran would essentially up the ante with a broader strike, all right? So Israel launched a limited strike so that Iran could essentially deny what happened, which is essentially what they're doing, right? It was a limited attack, and Iran is already downplaying it, saying that it never really happened to their citizens, so they could essentially save face, all right? Now, some people, I want to go into what I've been seeing on social media and certain questions that I've gotten in my email. Some people are claiming that Israel attacked the Iranian embassy in Syria, which caused the 300 drones and missiles, okay? Let me be clear that this is misinformation, all right? Israel hit a building adjacent to the embassy, but not the embassy itself, okay? There are some here in the United States that claim that we shouldn't be spending money on Israel or Ukraine, just be isolationists and use that money at home. This comes from the libertarians that don't believe that we should essentially spend money on anything, and at least they're consistent, right? But there are some that essentially believe that all foreign aid is essentially bad, okay? Now, without diving too far into politics, this is extremely short-sighted, all right? There are 2 ways that the United States spends money on defense, okay? One is in our actual defense, right? The building of F-35s, F-22s, aircraft carriers, etc., okay? And the other way is by strengthening our allies, okay? You see, when our allies are not strong, we have to eventually step in and take lead and actually put boots on the ground, okay? This has happened over and over again in history, okay? When our allies are not strong enough, the United States ends up taking a lead role in some foreign place that we don't need to be in, and we wouldn't have been in if our allies were actually strong enough to handle it on their own, right? So now, for those worried about the amount of money being given, I know that You see billions of dollars being sent to Ukraine or Israel and what have you, and people are worried about the money aspect of it. Let me be clear: foreign aid represents under 1% of the federal budget nearly every year. Under 1%. Okay? One of the things I've noticed about people that are screaming to the heavens about foreign aid and how much it will cost and whatnot, I get the feeling that you have a different set of priorities, right? Some are, again, libertarian. They're very consistent. They don't want money. They don't think that the government should be spending money on Social Security, health care, foreign aid, etc. They don't want to spend money across the board. At least that argument is consistent, though I disagree with it, right? I do believe that there is an American interest in strengthening our allies, right? So for those that, believe that any foreign aid is bad and a waste of taxpayer dollars, I don't believe you. Right? I just don't believe you. I don't believe that this is about fiscal responsibility at all. Okay? Many of those same people vote on $5, $6, and $7 trillion budgets every year and decide that foreign aid is where you need to pinch pennies. It's foreign aid that's destroying and wrecking the economy or whatnot. I could argue that we are spending too much in the wrong places, right? 22% of our federal budget goes to Social Security. All right. And what I found in my research is most people get back way more from Social Security than what they put in, actually. Okay. Then another 26% is on healthcare and Medicaid. Okay. Then national defense represents 13%. Net interest on the debt, meaning right now how much money we are paying other countries and institutions that have bought bonds, represents 11%. Okay. So when you tell me that you are worried about the less than 1% that we are giving in terms of foreign aid to our allies during wartime, where are your priorities, right? So my thing is this. Again, in the Middle East is not about land, okay? And Israel is not committing a genocide, all right? There are multiple different narratives that people are trying to paint in the Middle East, right? People are trying to paint it as, well, Israel is committing genocide, and I don't want to be a part of it, and what have you. And it's all lies. Israel is not committing a genocide, all right? What Israel is doing is taking care of a threat. The Iranian government felt threatened by a peace deal between Israel and the Saudi government. So they had to activate one of the terrorist groups in order to provide a distraction, right? And then once Israel killed the general who greenlit the entire thing, then Iran responded, because they have to look strong in front of their citizens, to attack. They decided to attack Israel with a combination of 300 drones and missiles. Now, thank God, Baruch Hashem, or thank technology, both, that most of them were shot down. And again, Iranians are playing this as if it's a victory, showing footage from another country and acting as if it's Israel. All right? And Israel decided to respond, but they were, it was just a warning, right? To say, hey, back down, right? Stand down, all right? Because the truth is no one in the Middle East wants war with Israel. Israel is an extremely powerful nation, right? So again, even with the Jordanians, they don't want a Palestinian state either. You know, the Egyptians won't even take in refugees in their country. Why are all these countries against a Palestinian state? Because they have been infected with Hamas propaganda that essentially creates terrorist organizations. They're training children to kill Jews. They're training children. They have books that they read that actually teach kids that Jews are bad and to kill them where you see them. Who would want that in their country? You have the Jordanians, that's my dynasty that, tries to, be pro-Palestinian because they have a large Palestinian base in their country. But behind closed doors, they don't want a Palestinian state from this region because everybody has been infected with the mentality that Hamas has essentially put inside them, right? So it's important that we get the entire story straight, okay? Israel is not committing a genocide. Israel is taking every precaution. Again, if Israel wanted to level Gaza, it could do it in one afternoon. But it is taking their own soldiers into these places to essentially go door to door and take out Hamas terrorists. The IDF is doing the best that it can to prevent innocent Palestinians from being killed. But when you have a terrorist organization that is there that wants civilians to be killed because it looks good in the terms of the media, Israel is allowing humanitarian aid to go through. Now, whether it gets to those Palestinians that need it, we don't know. Because Hamas is essentially stealing it. Or at least most of it. And they're killing innocent Palestinians that are trying to go get the food. So what Israel is dealing with is something that I think many of us may not fully grasp. So I wanted to make this presentation to, make a long story short, and hopefully you can explain to others what's going on and what Israel is essentially dealing with Hamas, with the Palestinians and whatnot. Again, 20% of Israel is Palestinian. Jordan won't take in any refugees at all. They don't want them in their country. Egypt won't take any of them into their country because their minds have been infected by what Hamas has essentially propagated or propagandized, is that's the word that I'm looking for, in their minds. All right? So be mindful of that. My prayers, hearts and prayers go out to, everyone that, has lost their lives in this conflict. And I just want people to understand and know the truth. And I know that it's hard between what you see on social media. There's some people out there. Israel bombed the Iranian embassy. No, we didn't. Right? They bombed a building that was adjacent to the embassy. Israel is committing a genocide. No, they're not. 20% of Israel are Arab citizens. And they're risking their own troops going door to door, trying hard not to kill any innocent. The United States is spending too much on this and that, and it's less than 1%. So be sure that, you let people know that. All right? I want Palestine to be free too, from Hamas. All right? So, that being said, if you found this presentation helpful, informative, do me a huge favor, hit that like button. Do me an even greater favor and subscribe to my channel. I always appreciate all the support that I am given. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Blade Talk. Be good to yourselves, be good to others, and until the next episode, you all take care.